taken upon ourselves to spread the information about the marine space, because a lot of people don't appear to know about this. I also own a company called Barracuda Diving India, which was set up about 28 years ago now in Goa, and we teach recreational scuba diving in that. What do? We have presentations like this to various schools and colleges all over India. We assist scientists and other NGOs in conducting underwater surveys and other forms of research. And the long-term goal is, of course, transplanting and regeneration of coral, which we've already started actually. We have done one project recently for transplantation, and we have transplanted 192 coral fragments, which are alive and well. And now we have started the process of putting them up for adoption. Already about 35 fragments have been adopted. So if you wish to adopt a coral, you can get in touch with us and we can send you all the information relating to that. We also do biodiversity surveys that require the expertise of scuba diving. We're also looking to start eDNA, which is environmental DNA, which is a relatively new science in taking the DNA from the water, where you can actually isolate DNA of each and every animal, coral, and whatever else is there, and isolate it and check for the presence of that. So our advisory panel, we have got quite a few marine biologists. Dr. Aaron Lobo, he's a herpetologist and a marine biologist and one of the favorite sons of Goa. Dr. Mrs. Chandralata Raghukumar and Dr. Sheshagiri Kumar, they are a couple. We used to work for National Institute of Oceanography in Goa for many, many years. Now they're retired. Dr. Robert Sluka is an American, and right now he's attached to the, I believe, Oxford University in UK. And he's also been helping us a lot. And Dr. Sujita Thomas is a lead scientist with CMFRI, which is Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, which is a government body. So along the course of this presentation, we're going to be asking you short quizzes. Of course, I don't expect you to reply to that now that we don't have the interactive part here. So how much of the Earth's surface is covered by water? Okay, some of you might already know the answer to this. The answer is about 71% of the Earth's surface is water covered, and therefore the term blue planet. And the oceans hold about 97% of all Earth's water. How many oceans are there? And can you name them all? I'm sure this is an easy one for you. Actually, there is only one global ocean. But because of all our penchant for having various boundaries, we have given them individual names, so which are Arctic, Antarctic, Indian, Pacific, and the Southern Ocean, or the Antarctic. Which one is bigger, Mount Everest or Mariana Trench, which is the deepest point in the oceans, recorded deepest point anyway? The Mariana Trench is 11,034 meters. That means you can put the whole of Mount Everest and also fit the Grand Canyon on top of it, and there will still be room to spare on the top. So that is seriously deep. Yeah. So let's talk about the beauty underwater. I'm sure all of you have watched programs like National Geographic and Animal Planet, but nothing quite beats diving and actually going down there firsthand to see the beauty of nature. Yeah. This is by far the most pretty environment you can ever see on Earth. Okay, so the Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef in the world and can be seen from the moon, which is 250 miles away. That's a long, long distance because the Barrier Reef is more than 2,000 miles long. Yeah? This is one of the most diverse and valuable ecosystems on Earth. That biodiversity here per square meter is actually much, much greater than what you would see, let's say, in the best rainforest on land. Yeah, it's incredible biodiversity and everything is really, really busy down there. The coral reefs are variety to a whole lot of creatures, including fish and mammals, all kinds of things. So there are more than 40,000 species of fish which have been recorded so far. Yeah, that's a lot of fish, and people, as the scientists, are still finding more and more species of fish which are new to us in the deep waters. And every day, every year, we come up with many, many more species. What can a seahorse do that no other animal on this planet can? So they are the only species where the male carries the eggs in his pouch. So unlike the theory that they are the ones who become fathers by, it is not by them becoming pregnant, but it's because they carry the eggs in the pouch until they are hatched. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. Venkatesh Jai Shankar here.
Yes, sir.
So the quiz can go on. Participants can unmute and answer. There is that provision.
Okay, lovely. But I don't want free for all.
Okay,
So
okay.
I'm just playing it, and I will give plenty of time for the participants to ask whatever questions they have in mind
Fine,
at the
sir.
end of the session. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. So when the seahorses are formed, they are the exact miniature of the parents, and there can be as little as 5 or as many as 1,500 which can be born. That's a lot of them because the mortality rate for young seahorses is very high. So not many of them survive, unfortunately. So next we come to the pelagics, which are living in the open ocean. These are manta rays. They also belong to the family of sharks. All rays belong to the family of sharks. There are more than 550 different types of sharks, and these are some of them. Okay, some cool facts. The blue whale is the largest animal that has ever lived. So we are talking about, including the dinosaurs, these are actually the largest animals that have ever lived. They're bigger than the biggest dinosaur that ever lived. Okay, so 32 to 33 meters, that means 100 feet long and weighing 40 tons. Yeah, sorry, 2,667. They're equivalent of 40 full-grown elephants, each weighing 5 tons. That's a lot of weight. Yeah, and only the sea can obviously support this kind of animal. And you've got the largest fish. Now, the whale is, of course, as you know, not a fish, it's a mammal. But the largest fish is the whale shark, which is in your left hand corner at the bottom. And they grow up to about 18 meters. And they are absolutely huge, beautiful animals. We do get them in Gujarat in India, where they come to breed and deliver their babies. And then in the middle slide is the smallest animal ever, that is the dwarf goby, the smallest fish, sorry, and that is less than 10 centimeters long. Okay, jellyfish. There are many types of jellyfish, and many more are being discovered right now. They are an amazing species as well. Not all jellyfish sting. There are some jellyfish which you can actually hold in your hand, and they don't do anything. And on the other hand, there are really tiny jellyfish which can actually really be painful when they sting you. Okay. Now, the great white, which all of you know from the movie Jaws, is actually the most dangerous animal in the sea. But in reality, among the sharks, the most dangerous one is actually the bull shark, because this is the only shark which can actually swim into fresh water. And so they have been sighted 100 kilometers up the Amazon River. And because all along the river banks, people live and they make a livelihood, they wash their clothes, they bathe in the water, they also swim, have fun. Unfortunately, the bull sharks go and get them. And they can swim in as little as knee-deep water. And they pick off people before they even know that there is a shark there. So that makes it the top dangerous predator as far as humans are concerned. Yeah. Now, they're the most misunderstood predators on the planet. Only 6 or 7 of them are actually dangerous to humans. And you compare this with more than 100 million sharks, which are being killed every year by us. So you really need to think about who is more dangerous. Yeah, most of the sharks are being killed because of their fins. You can see the dorsal fin, the caudal fins right down here, the anal fin, and the tail itself, and the pectoral fins, which are the biggest ones. So all these are taken and used to make shark fin soup, which is a status symbol in Southeast Asia and very expensive, but that's where it usually ends up. Unfortunately, in India, the east coast of India is exporting the largest number of fins in the world today. That is really sad, and most of us don't even know this fact. So, are sharks protected in India? Of approximately 160 species of sharks, only 10 are actually protected, and even that is not very well protected because illegal finning is still going on. And the only species which actually has got some good degree of protection is the whale sharks in Gujarat, because sometimes they get caught in nets, and now the government is giving incentives for the fisher folk to cut the nets and release the sharks, and they replace the net to them free of charge. They give them new nets and also give them some cash incentives. So therefore, a lot of whale sharks, which earlier would never have been released, are now being released. So the ocean is filled with more than just fish, right? You've got sharks, you've got you've got mammals, you've got fish, you've got even mammals like polar bears, which have been found more than 100 kilometers offshore, swimming in the sea and hunting. You've got penguins, which are technically birds. You've got dolphins, which are again in the mammal family, and also seals and sea lions, walruses, etc. There are a lot of birds as well in the sea, as you know, in addition to the petrels and the albatross. All of them depend on the sea for their food. So we all know about Finding Nemo, which is the movie. How is Marlin related to Nemo in the movie? I don't know if any of you can remember, but Marlin is Nemo's dad. But you have to remember that clownfish are actually hermaphrodites, and clownfish belong to a family of fish which are actually called now I've forgotten what they're called. Sorry, anemone fish. They're called anemone fish, and clownfish are only one type of anemone fish. Okay, so they're hermaphrodites. That means they actually have both the sexes when they're born, and they slowly generate into either males or females. And if the biggest male dies, then the largest female in his harem actually changes sex and becomes a male. Yeah. Dominant male can turn himself into a female. So maybe Marlin could also have been Nemo's mother. Now, this is not uncommon of the 40,000 species of fish which we are talking about, almost 10% of them can actually change sex. For example, the grouper, the parrotfish, all of them can actually change sex if the dominant male in the harem dies. A smaller percentage of fish can actually change the sex back into the original sex. How freaky is that? Yeah. So a lot of strange things in the sea, but very interesting things to see. Now, why should we save the oceans? Maybe some of you come from, I mean, all of you obviously are coming from different places like Bangalore or wherever, which is landlocked. And maybe some of you have not even come to the ocean. So the oceans actually affect global climate. Yeah, they are responsible for the currents, which is responsible for transporting warm water, which evaporates and then forms into clouds and then comes ashore to the land and rains. All the cycle of the weather patterns, the rain and the temperature control of the planet is actually controlled by the oceans. So it is a very, very vast system, obviously. And a lot of people, what they don't know the fact is that 70% of the oxygen released into the atmosphere is actually produced by the oceans and not by the forests. So even if you're living completely, very far away from the oceans and have no connection to it personally, please remember that every second breath you take is actually being produced by the oceans. So that's a great reason for you to start thinking about at least saving the oceans. Yeah. Now to think about this, a drop of water remains in for 9 days in a cloud, 2 hours in the river, and 5,000 years in the ocean before it evaporates again, goes back into the rain clouds, and then delivers the rain again on the land. And that whole cycle continues. Okay. All the oceans also help us in transporting all our produce, whether it is food stuff, whether it is cars, bikes, all kinds of refrigerators, ACs, across from one continent to the other, and they enable trade and commerce, and of course, buoy up the economies of countries. Yeah, they're a huge source of food, as you all know. Whoever eats seafood is very dependent on the oceans. We get our food and valuable minerals from the ocean. They also provide a lot of fun for us by water sports. So jet skiing, parasailing, windsurfing, scuba diving, snorkeling, all of that is helped by the oceans. And also they're a huge carbon sink, which means all the carbon that we are producing with our industrial activities, etc., is all being absorbed to a large extent by the oceans. And that's what makes us able to live on Earth. Otherwise, we would not be able to live and survive if all the carbon was actually going into the atmosphere. So what do our oceans, what threats do they face today? Yeah. So obviously a lot of things I'm sure come to your mind, but let's take a look into this further. There are primarily 5 major threats to the oceans today. Yeah. Sadly, this is not a very good photograph in the sense that it is a cotton bud that somebody has thrown away into the ocean. And you know the cotton will biodegrade in time, but the plastic is not going to biodegrade. Yeah. Now, number 1 in the threats is plastic pollution. Right? Everywhere you go in the ocean, there is plastic. Even in the Mariana Trench, which I told you about, which is the deepest point of ocean in the ocean, the scientists have actually found plastic bags down at 11,000 plus meters. That is really shameful, and it's a reflection on us, unfortunately. Yeah, this is not an uncommon sight. All the rubbish which is thrown into the sea by waves and by currents, it is deposited back on the shore, but in some places it actually circulates with the ocean currents and forms what is called gyres, Gyres. Now, these are areas in the ocean where the ocean currents meet, and it keeps going in a circle. So they don't disappear, they just stay there. Now, unfortunately, because it is in international waters, nobody takes responsibility for this, and they just think it is somebody else's problem. And as a result, nobody is cleaning this. Now, in some places, like there are different gyres in different oceans. So the Pacific gyre, which is the biggest one, is supposed to be about 10 meters deep. We are talking about 33 feet deep, full of plastic and rubbish. And because of radioactivity from the sun, radiation from the sun, all the plastic is actually breaking down into something called microplastics. And that sinks finally to the ocean floor. So the ocean floors today actually have got more plastic covering it than what you can actually see floating on the surface. So you can imagine it's an impossible task to clean up the bottom of the oceans because it is covering the bottom and you can't actually bring it up, right? The plastic which is actually floating on the top or in the middle of the oceans gets eaten by the animals. Like small fish eat it, the big fish eat the small fish, and so on until we actually end up eating the big fish. So it is passed up the food chain right into our bodies. And the scientists and doctors nowadays have a very strong proof that eating all those microplastics, which we can't even see, is actually contributing to our getting cancer, many types of cancers. Okay, so you can see what we are doing to the oceans, and it's all coming back to us. Yeah. Now, for example, if you put a plastic bag in the ocean, turtles, the favorite food for turtles is jellyfish, right? So they mistake a clear plastic bag for a turtle, for a jellyfish, I'm sorry, and they eat that. And of course, they cannot digest it. So it gets stuck in their gullet and it stops them from actually feeding in the future. And they die just because of starvation. So, so sad. Yeah. Same way, look at this bird on the bottom screen on the right-hand side. It was found full of plastic. It was dead, but it could not it has eaten so much of plastic that it cannot pass it out, and neither can it digest it. So it died. These are some more disturbing photographs, and this is the second most dangerous threat for the oceans, which is oil spills and chemical pollutants. I'm sure everybody remembers the Exxon Valdez oil spill, which happened in Alaska, and it decimated the wildlife there. Now, the sad part about the oil and chemicals is that they don't sink. They float initially on the surface, and they coat all the animals, like this bird, with a huge coating of sludge, which is basically what it decomposes into. And they stop them from flying or even breathing. Please remember that our body, even though we have got skin to cover our body, which is the epidermis, if we also breathe actually through our body. If a person was covered in paint, we would also die. We would not be able to survive with our entire body covered in paint completely, permanently. Yeah, we would die. So the same way, all the animals suffer, and there are many, many animals which are killed because of oil spills. And of course, when the oil becomes, after some days, it becomes into sludge, then it will sink and it kills everything underwater as well. Number 3 threat is global warming and climate change. Everybody is talking about global warming and climate change, but this is not something new. This has been there ever since the Earth came into being, right? So, but the changes which are coming now are coming very, very rapidly, and that is the problem. The animals and the planet is not able to cope with the speed of the change. So the polar ice caps are melting at a rate of 9% every 10 years, and it is actually increasing in percentage every year. So it is estimated that if the current rate of global temperature continues to rise, the Arctic will have no ice by 2040. You can imagine, with that amount of fresh water being introduced into the oceans, the whole chemical composition of the oceans will change. And with that, most of the animals that we know of in the oceans will actually become extinct. Right? This is a very real situation. It is not a doomsday picture, because 2040 is not very far away. Yeah, time is galloping. We are already in 2021. So it's not too far away. Now, because of the changes which are already happening, the climate change, the sea surface temperatures and the sea ocean temperatures are also rising every year. And a healthy coral reef like this turns into just a skeleton, because all the algae which lives and gives the coral the color will die or leave, leaving behind only the calcium structure of the coral, which becomes bleached. And over a period of time, if the temperatures do not go down again, then the coral will die. It will not be able to survive. So it's a very sorry state of affairs. Right now, we are facing a very serious threat of coral die off. Almost 25-30% of the corals are already gone, never to come back, which is a very, very disturbing picture. Number 4 threat is overfishing. Today, factory ships go out into the sea and they are actually catching fish by the gazillions. You can look at the slides, see the number of fish which are caught by every boat which is going out. Please remember, almost 70% of what they catch in the big ships is actually thrown overboard or washed overboard because it is not a commercially viable species, but they still die. Okay, they just dump them into the oceans and get rid of them, and it is just complete waste. Yeah, over 90% of the large fish in the oceans are already gone. So that species will not even be able to uh, reproduce and get back to their original numbers, because there are now no big fish left which can actually reproduce. This is the trade of shark fins that I was telling you about. I told you more than 100 million sharks are being killed every year. And by looking at this picture, you can see how many sharks it has taken to kill these, to get these fins, right? These are hung up on long lines, and they don't even kill the sharks because the shark meat is commercially not viable. So they cut off the fins and they throw the shark back into the water, like this last slide, where the sharks are still alive, but they're not able to swim. So they actually drown and die. Horrible is that? We also have a threat of ghost net fishing. Ghost nets means these are the nets which have been put down to catch fish, but they get caught in wrecks or rocks or coral, and the fishermen are not able to take them up again. And that leads to entanglement of all the marine life in the nets. And they cannot escape that, they die from it. And it's a horrible, wasteful death because nobody can even eat that animal. It just lies there and rots. It's very, very sad. So let's talk about, we've talked about how the beauty of the oceans, we've talked about what are the threats. Let's talk about how you and I can make a difference, because we can. The problem seems very, very big, but there are simple solutions to it. So everybody's heard about reuse, recycle, and reduce. I would say get rid of reuse and recycle, just reduce. Please stop and think about what you want to buy. If everybody thought that, do I really need this item? And how long am I going to use this item before I throw it away? And is it biodegradable, or will it be able to be, will that item be recycled 100%? Then you have your answer, right? First of all, if you ask yourself, do I really need this thing? And I'm sure you can cut your consumption by at least 50%, right? Also, please cut down on single-use plastics. This is the largest component of what is creating the problem of plastics all over the world. Let's face it, we will not be able to survive without plastic. That's a given. Yeah, there are too many things in life today we use plastic in. So it's unrealistic at the moment to think about doing away with plastics completely until they are able to be replaced with something which is biodegradable or which is a good substitute. And that is going to take time. I'm talking about years and years. But at least now we can wash, we can carry cups and plates and spoons and forks and use those to take the food in and eat that, rather than getting single-use plastic cups and saucers and plates and whatever and throwing them away, right? Utensils, etc. You're using, maybe a lot of you are using Swiggy or similar platforms to order food. So you can ask them, because remember, you have the power. If you demand that you will not order the food unless it comes in biodegradable containers or something which you can transfer and you can give back the containers to be reused to the outlets, then they'll be forced to change their ways, and the restaurants will have to use reusable containers. They can't. They will have to bow to your pressure. Also, you can refuse storage bags. Whenever you're going shopping, please carry your own bags. It's so easy to carry your own bags and bring back whatever you buy in that rather than asking them for plastic bags. Try not to throw away anything. In most cities now, a lot of things can actually be recycled. So everything from aluminum cans to cardboard, electronic equipment, glass, magazines, metal, paper, yeah, everything can be recycled. So find the local recyclers near you and try and take your trash and give it to them. It takes a little bit of effort, but in the long run, it will make a lot of difference. And you will feel good about doing something meaningful from your side. Okay. Organic waste do not mix with recyclable ones. It has to be treated separately. So maybe in your own building complex, you can create a compost pit. It's very, very easy. You can have big containers for the compost where all your kitchen waste and wet waste go in. And it actually can make manure, which you can actually use in your little bit of garden space, maybe on your balcony or even within the building area where you can plant trees and use this compost to actually grow the plants. You can even use that for growing vegetables, even in the small places that you have in cities. A lot of people are doing it. The internet, of course, is a huge source for it. So you can go on the internet and find out ways and means of doing this effectively. So reduce the waste. Like I told you, this is the most important. I've already spoken about that. So let's move on. Like I said, say no to plastics as far as possible. Please don't buy bottled water. There are filters everywhere. You can use your own reusable container to fill up that. Nowhere is it at no time is it more useful and interesting to do this than. Sorry, somebody's got their speaker on, I think. Can you put yourself on mute, please? Okay. So don't buy bottled water as far as possible. Recycle and use filtered water. Try to avoid products that are excessively packaged in plastic. Everything from bottles, straws, earbuds, toys. Yeah. If you do want to present somebody with a birthday present, why don't you think about wrapping it up in newspaper and giving it to them? It may not look very appealing and attractive, but remember that gift wrapping paper is actually non-biodegradable. You can't even recycle it, you can't biodegrade it, and it remains in the environment for years and years and years. So simple things make a lot of difference, and I'm sure if you explain the logic of using biodegradable paper to your friends, they will appreciate that even more. Okay, if you do get gift wrapping paper, please don't tear it up. Unwrap your present slowly and carefully and save that paper so you can actually pass it on to somebody else when you're doing a present yourself. Okay, try and use jute bags instead of nylon bags or plastic bags. Yeah, spread awareness among your own cycle, even among your local shops, so that your shopkeepers in the local area will change to recycled or reusable bags. Okay, raise your voice, make a noise. You have the power to make your local government change. So you can ask, for example, for a good transport system in your own area, like buses, etc., so that you take the pressure off the roads by everybody going on their own in their own vehicles, right, or on their own scooters, etc. That will cut down your expenditure. That will cut down your carbon footprint. So you will not be using so much of fuel. That will also reduce the traffic problem, which is becoming a nightmare in every city, right? So write about it, share your posts, encourage others to do it on social media. We are all very active on social media, whether it is Instagram, Facebook, whatever else. So try and kind of generate a movement, and you'll be surprised at how people are all waiting for somebody else to start. But you can be the change and you can start it, and then everybody will follow you. And it becomes a bigger and bigger movement. It snowballs into something much bigger. Okay. I was telling you about that. Do not treat the rivers and oceans as a garbage dump. Even if you throw it in the river, it still will come back to you through the oceans. And if you see other people doing it, please stop them from doing it. Do not buy aquarium fish from unauthorized dealers. Also, always try to find out where is the source and how was the fish caught. Okay. Try not to order endangered species at restaurants. If you don't know what they are, you can go on Instagram or you can go on the web and look at Know Your Fish. That will give you what is a safe fish to eat during any specific month. So you can check, for example, in March, what are the safe fish to eat in terms of not contributing to wiping out the species completely. Okay. Eat whatever is seasonal. Nature gave us the bounty of vegetables and fruits, which are specific to some specific seasons. So you can eat only those and they are good for your health. If you are trying to import items which are not in your local produce and which are not even grown there during that particular month, then you stand the risk of getting all kinds of falling sick and getting all kinds of diseases. Okay. Also, just imagine your carbon footprint in trying to, let's say, get oranges from Australia or California. It has to be air freighted in. So that is a huge carbon footprint that you're contributing to. Okay. Save electricity, turn off all the lights and appliances whenever you leave the room or you're done with using them. These are small things, but they make a lot of difference if all of us started following this. As I said before, you can start your own movement or you can join like-minded people. They are there. Believe me, they are there in every neighborhood, every college, every school, and in every community. So you can join them. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. If you join them, they're probably already doing a lot of work, and you can join them and learn that and also contribute or volunteer your time as much as you can. Okay. Please remember, think global but act local. When you think global, the problem seems too big and insurmountable. But when you break it down to your local action or your small problems which exist in your own community, then it's easier for you to do something about that. Okay. Join beach and underwater cleanups if you have them happening. I think all of you are from Mumbai. You're studying in Mumbai at St. Joseph's College. So you can always join the beach cleanup movements, which are happening there quite a lot and regularly. And you'll get to meet so many more people who think like you and who also want to do something for the environment. So in Goa, we have been running our underwater and beach cleanups since 1998. And we have taken as many as 65 participants in the cleanups. So we divide ourselves into teams where the non-divers are on the beach and they collect all the rubbish, and the divers go underwater and pick up all the rubbish and also free the animals like sharks, etc., which are caught in nets and which are still alive. So we free them and at least try and make a little bit of difference. Okay. The garbage which is collected by us is actually segregated, tabulated, and weighed as well. And then we actually send it to a local recycling facility where they further segregate it and then try and recycle the whole thing. Okay. If you wish to join us, you can also write to us. Usually, or actually always, our beach cleanups and underwater cleanups are held on the last Sunday of April, which is because we close at the end of April for the monsoons. So we actually do this the last Sunday of April. So you can email us or get in touch with us on WhatsApp or Instagram, Facebook, etc. All the addresses are given at the end of this, so we'll share that. Now, we have also done a mooring buoy operation where we have put down these cement blocks and to stop the boats which come to the islands from dropping their anchors. So on top of these ropes, which you see here, is a big drum which has been filled with polystyrene and it floats on the top, and the boats can actually hold on to that rope and tie off to that rope so that they don't have to drop the anchors and damage the coral. So this has proved very helpful at our regular dive sites. We're also doing a coral transplantation project, where we have taken coral pieces which have been broken already, either by breaking the dropping anchors carelessly or by wave action, and we put them on these tiles. These are flooring tiles, the back of the flooring tiles, and we put 4 tiles on in each corner of the tile, and we have transplanted 192 pieces of coral till now, which are doing very well, and we are monitoring them every month to measure how big they are growing. And also we plan to start a citizen science program in this, where you can come down, and even if you're not a diver, you can learn diving with us, let's say from Monday to Friday, Monday to Thursday, which is 4 days for the course. And then you can actually dive and see the corals and also contribute towards their well-being. Okay, we've also put up the corals for adoption recently, and they're being picked up fast. So we have sold about, not sold, we have got about 36 of them adopted till now out of the 192. So if you wish to contribute, please get in touch with us. They're only 5,500 rupees for a small fragment like this, and for the entire tile you have a discounted rate of 20,000 rupees, and all this money is actually going towards their monitoring work and towards further transplanting of this new species of coral. Okay, so please get involved, and we will send you a photograph of your baby. You can even get to name it whatever name you want: mother, sister, brother, father, dog, cat, whatever it is. And we will send you also the progress report. We will send you a picture. We'll send you a picture again in December, so you can actually see how big your baby has grown. Okay, I already touched on the eDNA biodiversity survey, so we are waiting for funding for this, and if and when we get that, then we will start this project, with which we will be able to figure out how many more animals are actually in the area, that any specific area, so that we can complete the biodiversity picture underwater for that area. So, how long does plastic take to decompose? Up to 1,000 years. Yes, you heard right, 1,000 years. Can you imagine? Even newspaper, which is buried in the landfills, if you actually take out a newspaper which is 40 years old, you can still read it. Because for decomposition, paper needs air as well. So if you're going to bury it underground, obviously it's not going to get air and it will not decompose. Okay. Remember, plastic was invented in 1907, and that means the first plastic object ever created is still very much there on this planet. That is a horrible statistic. Think about it before you throw away your next plastic bit. Which of the following items can be recycled? I think you all guessed it. We've already touched on it. All of them can be recycled. Okay, but it takes a lot of energy to recycle, remember. So you still need a lot of electricity, and that might be generated by coal or by petroleum products like petrol or diesel. So you're still using up a lot of resources and adding carbon into the atmosphere, which is not a good idea. So will you join us for the next cleanup? Please do. We will really appreciate that. These are the contact details of ours. So you can note it down if you wish and get in touch with us, and we shall be happy to clear your doubts and help you in any other way that we can. Right, so let me stop sharing the screen and then you can start your questions. Okay,
Yes, sir. You're done.
am I visible?
Rebecca will moderate the session. Over to Rebecca.
Sure.
Uh, no water, no life, no blue, no green. Save the ocean, save the world. I thank Venkatesh sir for this very informative and eye-opening talk on saving the ocean and climate change. It has indeed created a great impact on me as well as my fellow participants. Thank you so much, sir, for taking your time on educating us about climate change. It was very informative. I learned a lot of things apart from what I usually know, and I'm really glad that I attended this talk. So over to the question and an answer session. Kindly please raise your hand and unmute yourself, and you can ask questions or you can type it in the chat box as well.
No questions? Come on, guys.
If you all are very nervous to talk, you all can always type in the chat box. Sir, a question for you. When was
Yeah,
plastic invented?
1907. It said that on the slide. That was the first bit of plastic which was manufactured. Yeah.
Yes, please unmute yourself, the person who raised your hand.
I have a small question.
Sorry?
I wanted to know if there are any small sessions held for fishermen for them to know what are endangered species and what's the right time to fish what kind of marine life. So is the government taking any steps to educate the fishermen, because by the time it reaches the market, it's too late?
You know, the person who actually knows the cycles of the fish, what is available, what is not, and what is safe to eat and what is not during any time are actually the fishermen. Yeah, their knowledge comes down from centuries and also from going out every single day to catch. So they are the ones in turn who should actually be educating the government. Yeah, but there are bodies like Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute and various other organizations which are, yes, they do pass on information to all the fishermen, fishermen's unions, and from the unions they get disseminated to the individual fishermen.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, a question for you. Why don't
Yeah,
government take this issue seriously and reduce the production of plastic?
because of you and me. We are the consumers, right? Don't wait for the government to do everything. Government does what it can, but a lot of the stuff that is actually prompting the government to do anything is the reaction of the people. We should be the ones asking or maybe even demanding for things to be set right. And only then they will pass directives to the industries and to the manufacturers to take action against this. So don't wait, don't be reactive, be proactive. If you ask for something, then many more people will say, yes, that's a good idea, right? Even we wanted and we wondered why it was not taken off the entire thing. Like, for example, there is a certain thickness of plastic which the government had announced that they were going to stop production of. but where it is still available in the market. We can still find it and we are still using it. As long as you use it, there will be supply. If the demand stops, then the supply will automatically stop.
CB said 38, you can ask your question.
Hello, sir. My name is Satvik.
Hi.
Sir, in the maintaining of corals, you'll have to maintain a certain pH level, a certain temperature, and the tide levels. All of that affect the maintaining of corals, as I've studied in the third sem. And
Okay, good question. That is provided you do it in the controlled conditions, like an aquarium. And that is the reason why we chose not to put it in the aquarium, because in addition to the pH level, the salinity, and various other factors, chemical factors, there are also other factors which are not in our control. For example, electricity, in terms of power. So if there is a power cut, your whole aquarium goes down the toilet, unless you have backup systems like generators, etc., which again work on fossil fuels. So we didn't want to go that way. And the oceans by themselves regulate all the conditions which are conducive for the coral and other organisms quite well, unless we are affecting it. We are putting plastic in it, or we are putting more production into play, which makes the global warming increase.
okay.
So
Sir,
that we can't control and we can't do anything about, and that is, all pervasive thing. But by leaving it in the ocean, we are also hoping that, for example, the corals have got a certain temperature range in which they grow,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes.
So beyond, let's say, for example, 33, 34 degrees centigrade, the coral dies. So, but the scientists have found that in places like southern Red Sea, the water temperature was 36 degrees and the coral were alive and well. So the corals over a period of time have actually adapted to the increase in temperature.
Okay.
So maybe in other places also they are already changing. If the change doesn't come too quickly, then they will adapt. So
Okay.
it's best to let nature repair itself rather than our doing all this thing, except that we stop our activities, and that will contribute much more.
Sir, what will be your first step when you inculcate a coral in the beaches? Or like, what is the first step that the association takes from your side?
I didn't understand your question. What do you exactly mean?
Like you grow and uh, cultivate like corals, right, sir?
Yeah, we transplant them, yes,
Huh.
and grow them.
So when you
Hmm.
transplant them to the oceans.
They are already in the oceans. We don't have to
Oh,
take them out.
oh, okay, okay.
But we may relocate them again. When
Huh,
they
yeah,
grow
yeah, yeah.
very big,
Huh.
then we will take them off the frames and we
Hmm.
will take the tiles and we'll
Okay.
fix the tiles onto the substrate so
Hmm.
that they can actually get into a part of the actual reef.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you.
So CEs at 12 has asked a question. Sir, as
Mhm.
far as I have known, a lot of unethical ways of fishing that happens in and around Charo Islands, and the impact of it is seen even over the smooth coated waters. How do you think are the better ways to communicate with the fishermen communities in such a case?
I think at the end of the day, it's all a question of disseminating information and educating people. For you and me, we're interested in knowing what is a line fishing or what is a trawl net, etc. But in all fairness, the government has actually done a lot of work in this. For example, off the coast of Orissa, which has got the largest population of olive ridley turtles in the world, there are thousands and thousands, as much as 30 to 40,000 turtles, which are coming to the beach to lay their eggs. And this has been happening for generations. And at the same time, there are almost like 8,000 turtles being killed every year with the nets which are being put in the water by the fishermen. Now, the government should have really enforced their rules more strictly in this situation, because the government has actually given the fishermen something called TEDs, which is turtle exclusion devices, which are nets with a hole at the bottom where only the turtles can come out. The fish remain in the net, but the turtles can find their way and come out. But the fishermen are not using it, even though they have been given these nets for free. So, sometimes if education doesn't work, then you have to enforce the rules. In our country, we have a lot of rules, but nobody follows them. So that is a waste of time, energy, and even making the rules is pointless, right? So it has to be sometimes pushed down people's throats until they accept it, and then they see the value in it, and then it becomes an accepted norm for the future.
Yes, sir. CZ26 has asked a question. So,
Mhm.
do you know anything about worms which can digest plastic? I recently read that there are some worms which can digest plastic. If so, are they capable of eliminating the amount of plastic in world right now?
Yes and no. That is the question, answer to your questions. Yes, there is an organism, like I don't know what you would call it, a microbe or whatever, which has been found by scientists, and they are actually at an experimental stage right now. There is no way of disposing of all the plastic in the ocean, in the world today, by actually feeding them to those worms, because the amount is just too big. But they are trying to culture these worms and trying to grow them in controlled conditions, so that in the future, at least a majority of the plastic could possibly be eliminated this way, in addition to the many other ways also which they're exploring to remove the plastic or reduce the plastic.
Um, any updates on microbial degradation of plastics and the scale of it required to tackle the
I,
huge plastic waste? Do we see this in near future?
Oh, we'll definitely see it in the future. I've already answered part of that question, because the scientists are already developing systems and microbes to deal with this. But how long it's going to take, we don't know. And also, it is definitely going to be a long-term solution, if not for all the plastic, at least for a large portion of it. I would think so. Yes.
So I'm an beginner open water diver,
Mhm.
PATI certified. Will I be
Yes.
able to contribute to the underwater cleanliness drives?
Of course. Sure. Why not? So you can get in touch with us, or you can get in touch with any organization. There are a lot of organizations which are doing underwater and beach cleanups. So whichever city you happen to be in, any coastal city, of course, or even in rivers, if there are dive centers which are in that city, you can get in touch with them and ask them, how can we go about? When do you organize your cleanup? And is it possible for me to join? I'm sure they will welcome you with open arms.
Thank you, sir.
So I have the next question is, what measures can be taken to mitigate climate change impacts on ocean biodiversity, especially corals?
Like I said, at our level, we can reduce everything that we consume. That will be the biggest change you can make. It will mean giving up many things that you may like, but you can do it step by step. Nobody expects you to give everything up and go and live in a cave. That's not the idea. But at least some of the very harmful things we can give up. For example, we can stop buying uh, Coke in plastic bottles. You can go back to glass bottles. A lot of restaurants and supermarkets, if there is a demand for glass bottles, they will start stocking glass bottles again. So there is also an incentive for you to go back and return that glass bottle. It used to be there in the old days when I was a kid. So it's time to bring back some of those practices. For your information, Coke has just announced that they're actually making bottles out of recyclable paper. They have already finished the experimentation stage. Now they're actually putting it in practice, and they're actually going to be releasing it in the different markets in a staggered manner. So in the future, most likely you will see Coke in paper bottles, not plastic bottles. which is a good start. Hopefully, all the other manufacturers will follow suit, and then we will automatically cut down on the consumption. But in the meantime, I would request all of you to go for glass bottles which you can return and collect back your deposit. Make that little bit of effort, and also start carrying shopping bags, start using less fossil fuels, try using renewables wherever you can, like solar energy or hydroelectricity or electric vehicles. All this will contribute a lot to reducing climate change. I mean, uh, reducing the rate of climate change.
So the next question is, since the complete stop of plastic is unrealistic to expect, could we possibly pressure companies to put prices on plastic? This would help rat pickers in the country and even lower the plastic pollution, since there would be a price to recycle.
Yes, there is a way they can incentivize buying an environmentally friendly product. Look at it the other way. If, for example, the government went and told Coke and Pepsi and whatever to increase their price by 10 rupees or 5 rupees so that the consumer feels the pinch, where is the alternative for them, for the consumer to go and buy something cheaper? So, unless we develop alternate products which are available in the market and make those a little bit cheaper than the existing product, I don't think consumers will change, and neither can the manufacturers. So it has to go the other way. The incentives should be for environmentally friendly products, not increasing the price of an existing product. If that can be done, then that would solve a lot of the problems. But then it is like a chicken and egg situation. For example, if I was to make a paper bottle and I'm putting in entire new technology, new machinery, new processes, new distribution outlets in uh, marketing this product, the chances are that my product would definitely be more expensive than the products which are already in the market. Now, I can't reduce my price unless and until the sales pick up. So, which one comes first? I can't reduce the price because I don't have enough sales. I don't have enough sales because the price is not low enough. So, this is what is called a chicken and egg situation, which I'm sure all of you are aware of. And that becomes an insurmountable problem for new companies coming with new technology. So, the government has to incentivize the newcomers by giving them subsidies, for example, in tax breaks, or giving them subsidized land or free land, giving them subsidized power connections, etc., so that it makes them more competitive. Or even existing manufacturers, for example, if they're willing to change to environmentally friendly products, should be given incentives, which the government is trying to do in a lot of things. But like I said, let's do our part first. Don't point to the government for every solution. No government can live up to your expectations that way. We need to make the change at our level. And if we push up the demand, then the supply will automatically change.
The person who has raised your hand, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, Venkat. It was a lovely
Hi.
presentation.
Sorry?
Am I audible? Am I clearly audible?
Yeah, now you are. Yes.
All right, brilliant. Lovely presentation. Thank you so much. I actually wanted to raise a point regarding
Mhm.
the last question, the last statement that was just made on chat. I completely agree with what you just said regarding the incentivization of eco-friendly alternatives as compared to plastic. In the current
Mhm.
system, there is a lot of subsidies that are granted to the oil industry, and combined with like the mass market manufacturing of plastic, it really cheapens and drives down the price of plastic. And I don't
Correct.
feel like in a traditional capitalist structure, it'll really be possible to subsidize eco-friendly alternatives. However, there was this one part of the comment, the beginning of the comment, they said it was unrealistic to expect a stop to the production of plastic. I feel
Mhm.
like that's a very dangerous sort of statement to make. That's the only thing I wanted to discuss since there's so many people listening over here. Because I mean, just over 100 years ago, the amount of plastic that we have in the world today was also completely out of the imagination. Nobody expected this problem to get this bad.
That's true.
So, when you say something as serious and as drastic as the first piece of plastic that was made ever is still in existence today and is not biodegraded,
Mhm.
if that's a possibility, then eliminating the production of plastic definitely should be on the table.
Oh, I'm sure. I totally agree with you. But I think that statement should have actually been qualified by saying that it's unrealistic to stop the manufacture of plastic immediately. If
Yeah,
we put a time bound uh, statement, let's say we should aim at getting rid of, may say, 90% of the plastic in the next 10 years. That would probably be a more realistic target. And it would give enough time for new products to hit the market, to be developed and marketed.
I agree with you in terms of like the time bound thing, but it is also a chicken and egg situation in terms of we are
Yeah,
running out of time. But
exactly.
this
Yeah.
actually brings me to the second part of my statement, which is a question towards you, Venkat.
Mhm.
Uh, you speak a lot and correctly so about the kind of demand and supply thing. I've been speaking about the same exact thing for a very long time. Demand
Mhm.
drives supply. When the consumer demands eco-friendly
Yes.
alternatives and etc., then it is up to the companies who want to make the money to deliver.
Mhm.
The issue is that even though today a lot of this reduce, reuse, recycle philosophy exists, and outside of India, in a lot of like more developed countries, there's a huge market for eco-friendly alternatives. Even
Mhm.
then, despite that, like I can take a paper bag or a cloth bag to go shopping, but
Mhm.
I'm still going to pick up detergent or food, etc., that is packed in plastic containers.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
has to be stopped at the sources. It's a shocking thing when you think about how much food you eat that
Mhm.
has never ever been touched by plastic. It's going to be a very, very, very small quantity, because even at the farm they use plastic sheeting to cover up the soil beds.
Exactly. And you know what is even more disturbing is, with all that plastic wrapping the products, we are actually ingesting microplastics even with products which are on the shelf, not just
Ab-
fresh fish or whatever. So
Absolutely.
that's terrible. Yes, I agree.
So
There
so
are
now
shops, I have heard of shops. In fact, on our website, we have got a link coming up which deals with environmentally friendly products. Now, in that, we are also highlighting shops in different cities which will carry products in glass bottles, and you take your own containers. So you go there, and let's say you take half a kilo of rice, they will actually measure the rice and they will put it in your container.
bulk
If you're
piping.
willing to make that sacrifice and you're willing to make that effort to go to such shops and pick up the stuff, great. You're solving the problem of picking up something which
So
is
your
packaged.
your glass Coke bottles also are the perfect example of a system that actually works, that
Yes.
should ideally be brought back. My
Yeah.
question though is that now that we are seeing the supermarket age, everything comes in prepackaged quantities and things like that. When you don't have alternatives, like if there's something that I need to buy, say for example laundry detergent that does not come in anything but plastic containers, then
Yeah.
how do you drive manufacturers to stop using this? Because I mean there's only so much pressure you can put on a consumer, right, on an end consumer. I mean, as it's going to take a lot more than cloth bags to back this problem down. So where do you
Oh, yeah,
think
yeah. There are products you'll never be able to, put in your cloth bag and come away. But we can make reusable containers. Right now, we are throwing everything out. You use your
yes
shampoo and you throw it out. You should be incentivized to take that same container back to outlets which will be able to refill it for you.
Is there anything that you would
It's a
suggest
drastic
that
change.
the end consumer can do to help this incentivization process to occur faster than it is
Sure,
right now?
write to companies, start a movement on, for example, change.org or avaz.org. Make a movement, target specific companies, like, for example, Colgate Palmolive or Procter and Gamble, who are the big boys in this industry. write to them, get as many signatures as you can get mobilized. It can go into thousands and thousands of signatures. And if you write to the CEO and the top brass or even the investors, the shareholders, through that media platform, you don't have to write to everybody individually. When you put a change movement like this online, it automatically goes to them. That platform ensures that each and every person connected gets that. So if you start the movement and you keep asking everybody you know to join that movement and keep adding signatures, all they have to do is click on that and say, yes, I like this, or I'm doing this because of this reason. Maybe that also they don't have to do. They can just click on it and also share it on Facebook or whichever other social media. It starts a ripple effect. And more people will join you thinking, hey, that's a good idea. I was thinking of that, but I didn't do it till now. So this person has started it. Let's join them. And that's how it starts.
Great, we'd have something to talk about. You mentioned there was a page on your website that you've started where you're listing, these bulk buy stores and eco alternatives, etc., available in India. Would you please be able to send a link on the chat, or where can I access that page? I'd love to check it out.
We haven't uploaded it yet, but the link to our website is coastalimpact.in. So keep watching that, and in maybe about a week's time or so, we will have the link up. It's always a work in progress. So if any of you want to become a volunteer for Coastal Impact, you can also possibly join and do Google searches and send us or upload the information directly onto our Excel sheet, which we will send you a link to, and you can keep adding products by yourself. So, each and every one of us can actually become an agent of change. We don't have to depend on one person or the other to do it. You can add these and you will be spreading the message automatically.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. I had a question. What have been the deleterious effects of climate change on ocean ecosystems? Like, are there any loss of species or any data on that?
Currently, there are reported to be 1 million species which are disappearing every year. Every year. That should tell you something. Yeah, they're going extinct because of us and climate change. Okay, so it is a huge problem. That's why 92 countries have actually gotten together and in the UN, and they are following a charter where they have all agreed to reduce their global carbon footprint by the year 2030. Yeah, and also declare marine protected areas as well as terrestrial protected areas to the extent of 30% of the area surrounding their countries. So there is a target of 30-30, that's what it's called. By 2030, all the countries are pledging to reduce, or rather to preserve their environments up to 30%. And this is a huge movement. Even India is a signatory to that. And hopefully we will start seeing a lot more forests coming back. We'll see a lot more marine protected areas, which will allow all the marine life to come back. So it's a big thing and it's a huge responsibility, but hopefully we will get there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any more questions? You all can type it in the chat box or unmute yourself and go ahead, please. Kindly keep the questions short as we are running out of time as well. Thank you.
I think before we wrap up, I know a lot of people are just going to be starting with these thank you business, which to me, the best thanks you can give to me or to the organizers of this webinar is to go and do something about it. Don't just, when you leave this chat room or the webinar, don't forget about it. Try and do something about it and try and do something tangible. That will be all the thanks you can give anybody, especially yourself, for having taken the time to sit down and listen to and see this webinar. Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to actually break that rule. Sir, thank you literally for sparing your time. This one quote that we have to follow the formality as well. But thank you again for sparing your time to educate people. What the message that you said, yes, every participant student should now get onto field and get into action. But to bring that
Yes.
change, you instigated, you created that
I'm happy to
idea.
do as many presentations as you ask me to do, to even more students in the future. If you wish, we can do the same presentation. So I'm always available. All you have to do is get in touch with me, and I'm happy to organize something for you.
The National Science Association volunteers are the team behind this. All the actions, they are the one. So I will leave it to Satwik to render the final vote of thanks. Also,
Thank
there
you.
is the feedback form on the chat box. I request all the participants to fill that to get your participation certificates. And also the Coastal Impact website and mail ID sir had mentioned. One of the main intention of having this webinar is to get connected, get involved. So I request all the student participants and others who enrolled for this webinar, who attended, listened to, please make use of the opportunity, get connected. Okay, over to Satwik.
Thank you, sir. That was a brilliant lecture series, Venkatesh sir. Thank you for enlightening us. This has been like a journey from the beginning to an end, where we could learn a lot about the coral reef, the plastic, and the brilliant environment below the oceans. And thanks for being a part of the lecture series of today's. I would like to thank you, sir, and thanks for the organizers of the Natural Science Association. Uh, Please fill in the feedback forms. I request you, and thank you, sir.
Well, just one last thing I would like to mention is on YouTube, we have our account called Coastal Impact. Please do visit that, because on that we have uploaded all our webinars up to date, where we have also invited people from other conservation organizations, whether it is marine or terrestrial, to come and do their presentation. You'll be amazed at the amount of work people are doing so dedicatedly and with so much passion all over India. Yeah, most of them even I didn't know. So it was a pleasure to understand and recognize their work, which they are doing, maybe to preserve bees, maybe to save the pygmy hog. All kinds of animals are being saved. So please do go there and have a look at all our past webinars. And you can do that in your own time. It's not time bound like this one. So I'm sure you'll be able to see a lot and learn a lot. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
I believe the feedback link will also be sent through mail, or I request all the participants to fill it. It just takes few seconds so that the certificate reaches you. Participants, spare a minute and fill in the form.
Can I link to this? Are you going to be uploading this anywhere?
The video is recorded, sir. Even we too, the National Science Association also has a YouTube channel. We are also being uploading all these webinars there. It will be posted there. I will share the video and the link as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, sir.